The NFL stands for not for long.
Yep. Second down and goal from just inside the 2. Backs offset. Sharga and Armstead. Rollout. Walker still running out. Looks to the left. Wide open. Thompson touchdown. Colin Thompson with the touchdown. There was nobody within 20 yards of
a catch off the bobble. Colin Thompson scoops it up.
Lofton corner the end zone. It is caught for the touchdown. The first NFL touch for Colin Thompson is a score.
So they get left behind. I can't let you go. I won't let you know.
And welcome on back to Not For Long Media. This is your host, Colin Thompson, episode 4. Mitch Purgason. I hope you enjoyed the binge listen, the binge watch for those that are watching on YouTube, the listen for those that are listening to wherever you get your podcast. You can find Not For Long Media anywhere you get your podcast. So episode 4, Mitch Purgason. But before we get into that, guys, it's March Madness. You've been seeing on our social media, if you follow us there, at Not For Long Media. Instead of March Madness, we're doing March Goodness. I was sitting around thinking, okay, how can we raise some money? How can we do some good? That's what we're about here at Not For Long Media. Our friends over at Opinions on Pickens, they're about the same type of vibe that we're about here. We're going to help others. We're going to make some good content, have fun doing a podcast. And again, how can we get our followers involved in what we're doing? How can we get involved with what they're doing? And really, this idea is a culmination of a couple different things. And we decided to go with March Goodness, where for every bracket entry, Not For Long Media and Opinions on Pickens are going to donate $1 to the charity to the winner's choice. So if we have 500 people that enter this bracket challenge, March Goodness 1, 2, 3 on 2021 ESPN Tournament Challenge, our links in our bio. I'll get into that. But if we have 500 people that get involved, that's $500 to the winner's charity of choice. Say I'm Colin Thompson. I win the tournament. There's 500 people in the tournament. $250 from Not For Long Media, $250 from Opinions on Pickens. That goes to the charity of your choice, which is really cool. Sure, everyone would want the $500 to themselves, but you guys can do your own brackets with your friends and bet money and do whatever. But we're going to raise some money here, do it for good cause. Also, winner's going to get a whole swag bag from us, some signed Carolina Panthers swag. Our sponsors are going to be involved in sending you guys stuff too. So it's got a cool care package, and there's definitely some incentives for sure. So 2021 ESPN Tournament Challenge, March Goodness 1, 2, 3 is the group. So join the group. Just search March Goodness 1, 2, 3. The password's Not For Long. Again, Panthers items, a swag bag full of goodies from us and our sponsors. Make sure you follow Not For Long Media, Opinions on Pickens, and then on our social media, just tag your friends. Bring your friends over and do it. Again, sure, it's bringing us a little love, a little attention to our podcast, but we really are doing this so we can bring more people to what we're doing, and then also spread some love, spread some good word. March Goodness, not just March Madness all the time. We get it. It's fun. It's competitive. But March Goodness 1, 2, 3. Things are a little differently this year with March Madness, guys. So something you got to stay tuned. Everyone always thinks that Thursday's the biggest day. The play-in games are on Thursday, March 18th. This will be coming out Tuesday, March 16th. So those only 4 games will be on Thursday, but the big day is Friday, Saturday, and then Sunday, Monday. It narrows down to the second round. So first round starts Friday at noon, and the second round starts Sunday at noon. So it's a little bit different year this year. So really, you don't have to get the brackets in until after the play-in games, after the first 4. So really by Friday morning before noon is when you have to get your bracket in. So we'll have time. Keep pumping out, sharing with your friends. CBS, TNT, True TV. I think TBS is on there too. This is the year where you dust off the random sports channels and or really the tournament. We didn't have it last year where you dust off the random sports channels and watch the tournament. It's definitely a unique time with friends and family and tournaments, and it's a lot of fun. Top 4 seeds: Gonzaga, Baylor, Illinois, Michigan. And for me, I want to give a shout out to Colin Gillespie, a dear family friend of mine, who he's the point guard for Villanova. He's going to miss the tournament. He got hurt on senior night at home, Villanova, in Big East play. He's a leader of the team, one of the leaders of the team. He's one of the best players and was highly recognized for his play in the Big East. He was up for John Wooden Award, a bunch of different awards, and he tours MCL. at the end of the season. Shout out to Colin and his family. They've done a lot for me. His father, Jimmy, was my football coach for 4 years. He's a lieutenant in the Philadelphia Police Department. His mother, Teresa. I got to know the entire family, especially Colin and James, and really just the whole family in general. A bunch of great people, and our thoughts and prayers are with you, Colin. He'll be back better than ever. He's a tough kid. We've been going back and forth a little bit via text. He's just a winner. He does things the right way. He'll be back, and we'll see what happens. I don't know if he's going to be coming back for another year at Nova due to the COVID, giving everyone another year, or he's going to be entering the NBA draft, which I'm extremely proud of. Colin quickly used to be the water boy at Archbishop Wood, where I started, my high school football career, where I played my high school football, and he was just the water boy on the sideline, running around and throwing footballs around and playing basketball, and just the coach's son. So really happy to see Colin do what he's doing. March Madness this year, like I said, playing games are Thursday. It really starts on Friday. But guys, before we get into our episode here with Mitch Purgason, I want to talk about our sponsors. You've heard it now, Wealth Advisory Services. If you don't know them, you should. Paul and Dave, they use a personalized approach to managing wealth. WealthAdvisoryServices.com. Personal relationship with these guys, people that my family and I have worked with for a decade now, and it's been an unreal relationship. Personally, for me, they become friends. They become really a part of the family, and I'm really blessed to work with them on a personal level, and then for them to support our podcast. Check them out, WealthAdvisoryServices.com. Tell them we sent you, Paul and Dave, just great guys. The original Fudge Kitchen, another business that's near and dear to my heart, a family business. They ship fudge, saltwater taffy. We talked about Irish potatoes. We know what holiday's coming up this week for those Irish out there, or those that pretend like they're Irish, or those that just want to have a Guinness and a shot of Jameson and have a good time. So a lot going on with what the Fudge Kitchen does, guys. They ship fudge, like I said, saltwater taffy, Irish potatoes across the country, fudgekitchens.com. And if you're in Jersey, if you're down the Jersey Shore, they have locations all over, from Ocean City all the way down to Cape May, New Jersey, where we're located now. They have 2 in Cape May, 1 in Ocean City. They're all over the place. Wildwood. So delicious, creamy fudge. Wealth Advisory Services, the original Fudge Kitchen. Check them out. Both businesses near and dear to my heart, and not for long, media family's heart. Thank you guys for your support. All right, we're going to send it over to the Mitch Purgason interview at Stitched by Mitch, stitchedbymitch.com. Mitch Purgason. So it's going to be transparent. Mitch is not a NFL player. Mitch is not a star in the front of the athletic world, where this isn't someone who's on TV, but this is someone who dresses people that need to be on TV. So Christian McCaffrey this year passed along a wonderful gift to his offensive linemen and tight ends, and he got us all custom suits. So this guy, Mitch Purgason, shoots me a text, tons of energy, tons of juice. Hey, man, I want to come out to your house. This is right like in the heart of COVID there, where we really couldn't be around anybody. We were getting tested every day by the Carolina Panthers and the NFL to enter the building, and just a lot of stuff where it was kind of a dicey situation. But he came over, we masked up, he came into the house, and he fitted me for a suit. And shout out to Christian, an unreal gift. And I know the suit's coming here sooner than later. Can't wait to try it on and show off some of Mitch's work, because he's going to get my swagger right, which you heard me say many times on the podcast, trying to be like Chris Myrick. Shout out to Chris. He comes to the house, and right, we're having this great conversation. He's got this cool like notebook. He takes all these notes in and asks all these interesting questions that I think have literally nothing to do with clothing, but he does. And I got to really enjoy his time. Myself and my fiance Sydney were there, and we're sitting there, and he's just ripping off all these stories. And I would say maybe 2 or 3 stories in, I started just writing little notes in my phone, because I'm like, this guy needs to come on our podcast. When we get this podcast up and running, Mitch needs to come on. He's got too many great stories about NFL, NBA players and coaches suiting them. He likes to bet people that, a wager that, hey, I'll give you a custom suit if you win, or if I win, you give me some sort of goods as well. So it's really interesting. His story. He worked under Mark Cuban. That's a wild story that I really enjoyed, that you guys will like. He went to Appalachian State. That's where he actually kind of started working for Mark through just direct messages. And he just got a really, really cool story. He could write a book for sure. He played basketball at App State, just a grinder. And he's met some really cool people along the way. He's a creative director and chief of design for Stitched by Mitch. which has been in business for 4 years now. Obviously his company. Check him out, stitchbymitch.com, at stitchbymitch on social media. He's big on Instagram. And I really think you're going to enjoy this episode with Mitch Purgason, friend of Christian McCaffrey. That's how we met. He's buddies with George Kittle, Robert Tonyan, the tight end for the Packers. He just has a wealth of knowledge about his business, no doubt about it. But he's got some wild stories over the years, and I think you're going to enjoy this interview. Let's send it over to the Mitch Purgason interview.
Relax. I know you've never been this high before. The stars and the moons and the constellations.
Well, there's a few stories that are extremely interesting that we talked about when we met, Mitch, and I don't want to get to them. We're going to get to them. We're going to have a little cliffhanger for the audience. But first, tell me what you're up to now.
Yeah, man. So today, specifically, one, I'm a clothing designer, so I spent a lot of time kind of figuring out new things I can try, new opportunities to either create something fun for people that I work with. And so really all of 2020, I was focused on, development in the sense of more urban wear, more casual stuff you could wear at home where you still look good. And I think one really cool thing about doing more research on that, talking to my clients about what they would be interested in, is none of them have the in-between, meaning they probably all have sweatpants and they probably all have suits. They don't really have like the cool, comfortable in between of like, I look like a badass, but I also feel awesome. So I think that's, something I'm working on now, pretty obsessed with. Like, this is something that I made. It's basically a cashmere stretch denim overshirt, and it looks awesome, super comfortable, feels just like a hoodie. But stuff like that. And it's been a lot of fun because, as I'm drinking my Hustle Juice coffee cup right now, I think sometimes, most people that do hustle, they sometimes get lost in it and they forget about what's the next step in the business. They're just like, okay, cool. Business is going well. Let's just keep doing this. And sometimes you forget to think about, well, what can you do to add to it? What can you do to make it better? And so that's what I'm working on right now. And I'm pumped about it.
Hustler Juice, huh? Is that the code name for some coffee?
Hustle Juice. Yeah, man. Yeah, no, it gets me going. It gets me excited. It gets my mind racing. And I always joke, I play Call of Duty a good bit. And I always tell my friends I'm pretty useless unless I have a couple coffees before I play. And, once I play, I'm like, I'm in the zone, focusing and all that stuff. So yeah, I'd say it makes me care more, but in a competitive way, just about anything that I'm doing.
A lot of hustler juice in the clothing design industry. Talk to me what that looks like now, or what it looked like a year ago before this all went down. Obviously, coronavirus has affected everyone's lives, different businesses. People probably aren't thinking about, hey, how's the custom clothing business been hit? But I'm assuming it's taken a pretty sizable hit.
Yeah. I speak pretty frankly about it. I took a decent hit in revenue. I think the wake up call was, you spend all this time meeting certain people and trying to impress them and add value to their lives. And hopefully, when it doesn't matter what industry you're in, eventually you kind of get a certain clientele that you would think is recession proof. And up until coronavirus, I met a lot of awesome people, successful businessmen, successful businesswomen, lawyers, athletes, kind of the whole nine. And all of them did well enough where, even if there's a downturn in the economy, people are still getting married. There's still charity events. There's still black tie events. And I built a good group of clients that still went to that kind of stuff regardless of the times. And so it was the first time in my life where, one, I couldn't go to events, and two, the people I worked with couldn't either. So that was definitely unique. Sucked from a social standpoint. Honestly, even more than the business. Like, if I could have still gone to stuff last year and just not sold stuff, I'd have been happy because, it's people interaction. You get that buzz, you get excitement just from hearing one stories, like we connected and you showed me your story. And it's like, I was very much grateful anytime in the past year to really just sit down with someone that had a different kind of life and tell me their story, because I hadn't had many opportunities to talk to people. The most conversations I had were, Xbox conversations with my buddies of, hey, where are we dropping, boys? So it was nice for that. And so I think it was a good reset. Struggle with the business, good reset in terms of, I really crave social interaction and deep conversations, and not to take those for granted.
It's a great point about the social interaction and how it's affected so many different people. You're talking a little bit about just the mental health of it, down to the base root of it. I don't have someone to talk to and hang out with, and the adrenaline rush of going out to eat, going to events, or just a casual, let's go grab a drink somewhere vibe. That was something that socially, I think always I have done or felt comfortable in, or always drive, at least from my time in college, was okay, it's Friday night, let's go out. Where are we going to dinner? What are we doing? It's Saturday. What are we doing? And with COVID, it just cut everything out of your life, all of the extra add-ons to your just base life of family and close friends. What were some of the things that you struggled with during COVID? Obviously the social side of it, but when it came to business-wise, like wearing a mask all the time, you're doing custom clothing, were there certain clients that said, hey, I'm not comfortable with you coming to the house? And again, that's a huge hurdle business-wise for you.
Yeah. A lot of people were very paranoid. I actually went to a golf tournament with one of my good clients. He puts on a golf tournament every year, and for all his buddies, not a professional one. And the winner gets a blazer for me. That was the last fun thing I did right before COVID. And, it was the last quote unquote sale I made right before COVID. It was a blazer for a guy. And I remember when it finally came in, because it took forever just because of everything going on. I dropped it off and we wore masks, and I basically just hung it outside his garage, and he saw me through the garage and waved and grabbed it because he's got young kids. So that was pretty weird. I think the monotony of everything, it felt like Groundhog Day. I felt like I was doing the same thing every day, waking up, playing Xbox. I didn't have my Peloton then, and so I didn't really have a means to work out. The gyms were closed. It was actually the first time as an adult I bought an Xbox or a TV. I never watched TV before then. And, I did in college, but when I started hustling and working my job, all I would do is I'd paint, I'd read, I'd listen to podcasts, and listen to music. That was just my life. And, I was like, okay, COVID, I can't get obsessed with Xbox. It's bad for business, but I'm going to crave interaction and competition for sure. So I knew I had to get it. It's been a good thing. Yeah, I'd say just, I love creativity, and creativity means different things, to different people. For me, it means the opportunity to come up with something new and do something new. And COVID prevented the opportunity to do something new from a business, life, and et cetera perspective, and experience new things. So I say just in general, that concept, overarching, not being able to do anything new, design, meet, go, eat, whatever, was the hardest thing for me.
It's pretty clear for all of us, it seems now, what we take for granted. It's and that freedom to be in a place like we are in this country and be able to do what you want. You talked about creative, interaction, the competition. Well, you were an athlete yourself back in the day.
Back in the day.
Yeah. Back in the day. Are you still hooping? And if you are, how's your game?
I just, about a month and a half ago, I've been playing with some guys at local rec center, and we're the only ones that play, and no one else is there. But it took a while. I think I've actually lifted a lot since my gym started opening up late last year, end of last year, and I've been lifting a lot, so that's been good. But I think I've also gained weight, just being honest, and I'm a chunky boy right now, and I'm slimmed down a little bit. But I think your body, I used to be really quick and I could shoot pretty well. So I'd have the defense respect my shot and get by them and set up other people. Just until probably the last week, my shot was terrible. And then, yesterday I played and hit probably 15 threes in a couple games, not each game, but over the span of a couple games. And it just felt awesome.
That's a record.
Yeah. No, not in one game, but over the span of a couple games, it just felt awesome because, I don't think there's a couple things that I think in sports that just feel amazing. One, scoring a touchdown. I remember when I scored one in Little League. Two, taking over a basketball game. Three, hitting an iron shot within a couple feet of the hole and, sinking a birdie. There's a couple specific feelings that I just think feel amazing. And yeah, kicking people's ass in basketball as a short dude is definitely one of those. So
not the biggest guy, but played at a pretty high level. Talk about your transition from maybe youth sports, high school, the recruitment into college.
Yeah. So I was a really good high school player, middle school player, and my dad was 6'2", my brother was 6'2", and I was like a 5'8" point guard, 6th, 7th grade. But I could dribble, and I was really good, and I really didn't grow that much more after that. I'm like 5'8.5" now. So a lot of hype coming out of middle school, freshman, sophomore year of high school. I was on varsity pretty much my entire high school started, but just didn't grow as much as I expect. So the hype died down a little bit my junior, senior year, but got a concussion my senior year, still had an opportunity to go play. A couple of schools decided to be basically a preferred walk-on at App State. And that was awesome. I actually had a relationship. Jason Capel was my coach, and he came to recruit a couple of our big players when I was a point guard at Wesleyan in high school, and just kind of met him there and developed a relationship, and stayed in touch with him throughout my time there and go play open gym. And then when the time was right, started playing. That was a lot of fun. So, big App State guy, love App State football, basketball. But what's funny is I've actually found myself rooting even more for all the teams my coaches are still interacted with. And thankfully, they're all in better positions now than they were then. But, yeah, man, just huge basketball guy. That was an amazing experience playing a college sport, and got a lot of cool stories and funny stories throughout that.
So when you were in college, is that when you got the itch to work in clothing, or was there a certain period of time that, hey, I'm gonna do custom clothing and I'm going to work with professional athletes?
I think all of my coaches played a very high level of sports. Everyone played pro except one, and his dad was basically a pro coach. So he interacted with all these pros. All these guys grew up as the guy on their team and played pro. So they did well. They had money. They liked nice things. A lot of them played in Italy or in Europe, and so they'd always talk about Italian suits. And then I think I paid attention to that. But my mom is very creative. She has an interior design business back in Greensboro. Very creative, designs her house in an amazing way, very good with color. So we grew up in a very creative household. My mom was an actress, sister was an actress, brother was a musician. I always took painting lessons when I was little. So I always was fascinated with color, being in basketball, obsessed with fashion. And then all that kind of came together towards the end of college, saying like this would be a really cool career. When I could realize I could combine the two and, have fun, look good, and help people do the same.
I remember you telling me about your coach who was at App State, who's now at the University of Houston, correct? Mm-hmm. And he's doing a great job there. They're a great team.
Yeah, they're nasty.
I'm starting to watch a little more basketball now that we're getting ready for March Madness. Listeners, stay tuned. Actually, maybe coming out this episode, we're going to be doing a March Madness tournament. But that's neither here nor there. They're at Houston. So talk about the connection. You're still fitting his players, or you're fitting the coaching staff for suits on the road. Is that true?
Yeah. So it's Colin Sampson. He's a stud. His sister Lauren is basically the person that runs that team, and they give her a lot of credit, but I don't think people from the outside of the organization understand it. She's basically the CEO of the team. Kelvin Sampson, the dad, he's the head coach right now. Kellen's head assistant, coach in waiting. And it's really, and then, their whole family that runs everything. Kelvin's wife is super involved. It's a really cool family to still, be connected to. And thankfully, they gave me the opportunity a couple times to make suits for their players, for their banquet. Didn't happen this year because they didn't obviously need a banquet. It's usually in October, November. I think they did everything virtual this year, but did some suits for them. And then my head coach at App was Jason Capel. He's now head assistant at Pittsburgh with his brother, Jeff. Done a lot of clothes for both of those guys. I tell everybody, Jeff and Jason are two of the swaggiest coaches on the sidelines in any sport. And so they've been great to me as well. And then my guy, Justin Gainey, is a head assistant at Marquette. And, he's given me a couple opportunities to make some clothes as well. So, all really good programs, all love clothing, all love swag. And I've stayed in touch with all of them, which has been really cool.
Clothing and swag. That's something I got to get my swag up on. I'm doing better now, and we're going to get into that because of Christian. But I want to touch on this. You're talking about Marquette, Pitt, Houston. You started at App State. something that I value the older I get and the more people say, tell me, I'm on a million podcasts, it seems, or radio shows, and tell me about yourself. What's your why? I think I really value connections, right? We're here FaceTiming and we talk for 3 hours when you're only supposed to be there for 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Just talk about connections and building bridges and not burning bridges, and how those friendships have turned into a business, and that business has turned into just the culture around what you're creating and that vibe that gets you going every day. You talked about the juice. You're missing that juice that keeps you going, drive, passion, whatever the word is. But people always ask me, what's Colin Thompson like? What people ask, what's your why? What do you do? Why do you do it? And Coach Rule always says, like, your why is not your kids, because you were doing football before your kids. And I think he's right. He said your passion could be to work for them and provide and fair connections. I want to steer back to that. Building bridges. What has that meant to you?
I think it's everything. I think bridges, connections, life is, your entire life, you're building a legacy. You're building something. And that's either something that's good or something that's bad or something that's not that memorable. I think creating memories with people, that's how you build a bridge. That, there's a memory there that's the reason why you still connect, you still talk. There's multiple memories. So I think everyone's building, everyone's curious about building. Building is literally, there's a beginning, there's an end, there's a process. And so that's life, your whole life, you're just building theoretically in time. And I think that's really important. I think treating people right. There's a lot of times where, I've either messed up and, I've said sorry. There's other times I've messed up and I haven't obviously handled everything perfectly, but I think as long as people understand that you have their best interest in mind and, you're not just there to do whatever there is to do. You're there to be there for them and be a good person and check in on them. And, I think everyone wants people to have their back. And if someone has your back, you're probably more willing to risk more for them or risk giving them an introduction or anything like that. So that's kind of how I feel about it. Connection is someone I'm willing to risk my reputation, on, someone I'm friends with. And, when you have enough of those, you can build a pretty cool life.
Pat Croce, a very successful president of, operations for the Sixers when Allen Iverson was there. When they played Shaq in the finals and Kobe, and they had Mutombo and they won that first game. And Pat is just full of energy, and he created NovaCare, which is a huge physical therapy center it's grown massively, but he created that. And Pat, who has become, great friends with my parents and our family. Pat always said, collect friends. And again, I wanted to make sure that's not a cheesy way, have as many friends as possible, but collect friends in a way that friends, truly people that are there for you. You talked about connections and legacy. I think that's all key stuff, but some things that stuck out to me, you were saying beginning, end, process, creative building, and you're a painter. There's beginning, there's end, there's process. Not to get too deep, but is that why you enjoy to paint? Do you enjoy painting, or is it something that you've just done forever and you just have had a passion for that color?
Yeah, I love color. I think color makes the world go round. I think it helps people see different things. I think a lot of times when people travel, the things that they remember are colors. There's a psychological thing there. They talk about if they're in Jamaica or the Virgin Islands, they talk about the color of the water. They talk about, how pretty the sky is in places that aren't as, filled with gases and toxins and stuff like that. They talk about, Ireland and Scotland, how green it is. They talk about color pretty much everywhere you go. You talk about the sunset if you go to Bali, and, the color of the sand if you're in, Bermuda or whatever. So I think people remember colors, they remember things, and they usually remember the significance behind events of where they remember those colors. And it's a trigger, and I love that. And so I think anything that has color in it that can kind of get me focused, in a different kind of state of mind. I think painting's a lot like meditation. I think some football players might say football is like their own meditation or their own medicine. They're in a different world when they're doing it. It's just a lot of fun for them, and they can just be themselves.
Football is their medicine. I like to do some things to escape football, that's for sure. But I will say this, football is, that's a great point. Thinking back, and I had a nice long pause there because I had to really truly think about that. I want to speak articulately because today I'm struggling a little bit. I'm stumbling over my own words, but
Need some hustle juice, man.
I need some hustler juice, but I can't have any hustler juice after 9 a.m. or I'll be up all day. I can't, I should be up all night. I can't sleep. It's interesting. Football is an escape for me. It is. I enjoy the games more than practice, but the nice part is, right, that's at anything, but I've grown to enjoy practice and that grind, that hustle. Not in a cheesy way, like I love the grind, bro. No, like I've made practice and everything just with a purpose to raise really my confidence for when it matters. Like if you're really competing all the time, it doesn't really matter when the lights come on or when there's like refs out there or fans in the stands. It's made things way easier. That's a coach rule thing. I'm lucky to have been to, now 2 different places, at Temple and now Carolina, to under his tutelage of just how to mentally prepare and just grind at everything you do and do everything with a purpose. Your lift, the way you're eating, everything's intentional. I really enjoy that side of things. And it's made me think. I was ready for my next question. He threw a curveball at me there. I'll be honest with you, because I guess football is my escape from life, even though I feel like when I'm leaving football, I'm ready to find another escape, but I don't need to escape from anything. I have a wonderful life. I'm very lucky. I'm very blessed. And one of the things I'm blessed for is the fact that I have a new suit on the way. Let's touch on that. I'm pretty jacked up about that. So I'll tell the story here briefly. Christian McCaffrey, who is one of my teammates, it's still weird for me to say. I still feel like I'm an XFL shirt on. Shout out to the Vipers. Like I'm in the XFL, but one of my teammates, Christian McCaffrey, one of these best players, if not the best player in the NFL, in my opinion, took care of us, took care of the tight ends and the offensive line very well with some custom suits. And that's how Mitch and I met. And he came up to the house and was supposed to be there for, hey, man, it's going to take 30 minutes. We sat there for 2-3 hours and we just BS and had a great time. And that was extremely, extremely nice of Christian. And what an unbelievable gift to give to everybody. You hear people give, Carson Wentz, I think, gave his offensive line shotguns or Yeti coolers, and Teddy Bridgewater got, I think, Gucci bags for the O-line. I could be wrong, but there's always great gifts every year, usually more public because the reporters get to see it. They get to see, the bags on the ground or the coolers or whatever it may be, the ATVs rolling around. But in this case, Christian, humble as can be, under the radar, I get a text from this guy, Mitch, and says, hey, I need to come to your house and fit you for a custom suit. That's unbelievable, man. I'm ecstatic. I can't wait. I think it's like a forest green. I used that earlier and everyone's like, forest green. I don't know how to explain it. You could explain it better, but I will make me look good. And that's a struggle. And that's just real.
Yeah, it's going to be sick, man. It's basically like an aqua forest mix with an orange and white little window pane stripe. And yeah, it was awesome, man. I was actually at a wedding with one of our mutual friends, Jack Sock, and Christian just called me. He was like, hey, man, hope everything's well. And, I want to get all the guys suits for Christmas. And I was pumped, obviously, because I get to meet a lot of cool people. And he's an awesome guy, man. That was a nice order to get, and just a little bump in confidence, during COVID, a rough year for apparel. So super pumped. He was really generous, on both sides. And I'm pumped for everything to come in and get you guys fitted. And it's gonna be fun, man.
To take a deeper look into what it was like when Mitch swung by the house, there were certain things I liked. And he's like, sorry, my rule, I can't have 2 guys in the same suit. It's just a grind, and it's too many hoops, to jump through, which I was for. I would wanted to just like the plain blue or whatever it may be, and this have a nice fabric. But no, you were steadfast, and I ended up with a great color. So I appreciate it, man. I'm going to have my swagger right, which is a struggle for me. And I'm going to be sporting it next year. I think I may have to rock suits to the game next year. I have a couple hockey jerseys I want to wear, a couple different things to give some people some free pub, but I think I'm going to rock the suit.
Yeah, dude, it's going to be swaggy. My favorite part about the pattern you got that we talked about is you're going to be able to wear it with a blazer or wear it as a blazer. The pants are going to be fire. You can wear those just with a dress shirt. So it's a pattern you're not going to see really anybody have. And yeah, that's one of my rules. I don't like selling the same thing twice. One, it just makes it more exclusive. Two, I don't want any of my clients to run out and see another one of my clients and like, oh, wow, where'd you get that? It's like, that's the worst feeling in the world when you're at a bar. I remember this funny story, and this actually made me start doing it. I had this sick leopard print shirt, and I went to the beach, and I was so pumped about it. And I was like, yes, this thing's awesome. No one's going to have it. First bar I walk into, another guy's wearing the exact same shirt. And I was just like, and this guy had no sense of style, like not to hate on him, but not going to mention any names, but horrible sense of style. Just didn't know what he was doing. He's wearing, socks with sandals kind of guy. And I was just like, all right, I hate that feeling, and I don't want any of my people I work with to ever feel that either. So yeah, it's kind of when it became a rule, and it's worked out pretty well.
Well, hopefully my swag will be right, to quote you, and I'll look swaggy on game day next year. Christian McCaffrey, one of the best players in the league. How'd you meet him?
So I met Christian at a wedding, another mutual friend. Basically, Christian's manager is a guy named Tim. Tim's one of my best friends. And when he first moved to Charlotte, I met him through some of my NASCAR buddies and just kind of developed a friendship with Tim, one of our NASCAR buddies. Tim's one of Christian's best friends from back home in Denver. And basically one of his, his brother, but not his brother. And one of our best friends who introduced me and Tim is a guy named Paul Swan. And it was Paul and his wife Mariel's wedding. And Paul's good friends with Christian, good friends with Tim. So we all just met, all went to the wedding. Tim had told Christian about me, introduced me, and yeah, we just hit it off. Kind of the first time we hit it off, we talked about Dumb and Dumber for a while. Started quoting each other's, movie quotes to each other. And honestly just became friends. And that's really how it started. And yeah, we have a really unique friend group, but really fun friend group, always down to try new things, and everyone hustles, and yeah, we just try to help each other out.
That's great, man. That's fantastic. Yeah, he's a hustler, to say the least. I always tell people he's the best at everything he does. Kind of like what I was talking about earlier about, practicing and doing everything with intention to be better, or whatever that may be, to not just do the little things, because, with that much intention to detail, because they're just little things. He's the best walkthrough player I've ever seen. Unbelievable, just his attention to detail, and we're literally walking. He just does things the right way. You had a story about Christian that he doesn't even know, and that's great. We'll break the news right on the Not For Long Media. I love it. Tell us that story, and we're going to get into a bunch of little stories here moving forward. There's some really good ones.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. So this year not as much, just because of COVID, and I think Coach Rule let all of you guys wear sweats. But basically last year, 2019, I helped Christian put together a lot of his looks for game days, home games, away games. And the most popular one, or at least the one that got the best reviews, is the suit he wore to Green Bay. It was like a light brown bamboo suit. Bamboo, actually made out of bamboo fibers, super soft, sheeny, silky. It's an amazing fabric. It's one of my favorites. And we just basically put this together, this sick, brown look. He had a turtleneck, dope shoes, dope shades, dope bag. The whole look was just amazing. Now, I couldn't have been more pumped. And, I was texting him about it, and he had not even tried it on, because basically, I'll think of ideas, and then me and him will talk about it. And each week it's something different, and sometimes stuff comes in last minute. If we just come up with an idea. So that was one of them. And it was supposed to arrive Thursday. They were going to fly out Saturday. Didn't arrive Thursday, but I was like, all right, whatever. It's going to arrive Friday. We're good. He texted me. He's like, yo, dude, we're flying out at like 1 p.m. today. And I was just like, I guess it's Friday. And so I was like, okay, the suit, it was the most excited I was about any of the suits, because I put a Peaky Blinders lining on the inside of it. I put, the quote, my suits are on the house or the house burns down. Christian loves Peaky Blinders. I love Peaky Blinders. And so I was so excited about it. And I was like, okay, yeah, cool. Yeah, 1 o'clock. All right. It's Friday. It was like 11 a.m. I get a notification from UPS, and they were like, you were not home. The driver's going to come back and drop this off on Monday. And I was just like, holy shit. Like, he's not going to have a suit for Green Bay. And it was also not just his suit. It was Jarius's suit. the Andrews suit. There was 3 suits I was doing for that weekend. They were all awesome. And, all for Green Bay. And so I was just like, I was freaking out, and I was like, good Lord, what am I going to do? And so I'm a UPS My Choice customer, which if you don't know UPS My Choice, you get a notification when it's in your area, and you can basically track the truck. You can track it, and you can kind of figure out where it's going to be. And then it gives you an estimated shipping time or delivery time. And the dumbest part about it was I was home. Like, I was home the entire time. I don't know what happened with the delivery guy, but I basically pulled up UPS My Choice, found out where he was, and I started running after the truck. And it wasn't just like he stopped like 10 feet away, 20 feet away. Like he'd gone one place. I ran all the way across town, didn't see him. Then it updated like 20 minutes later, he was over here. I was literally sprinting. I wasn't in a car. Funny story, I didn't have a car at the time. So I was just running around uptown like as fast as I could, out of breath. This out of shape little white dude trying to hustle down a UPS truck. And about 30 minutes of running later, I probably covered a couple miles. I finally stopped the truck, and you're not even allowed to do that. They usually would still be like, well, we can deliver it to your address. We can't just give it to you. I get next to the truck. I look at the guy. I was like, dude, you have a package. I need it now, and I cannot get it Monday. And he just looked at me. He's like, man, I can't do that. And I was like, you don't understand. For Christian McCaffrey, I have to get this package now. If I don't get it, I don't know what's going to happen. And so he's like, all right, fine, man. He gave me the package. I signed for it, and I was freaking out because it was like 12:45. Y'all are leaving in like 15 minutes. I run to the stadium, have the package. DJ's outside, DJ Moore. And I basically just was like, DJ, this is Christian's, this is DeAndrews, this is Jarius. Can you give this to him? Christian hadn't even put it on yet. Bamboo is also a little different because it's not normal like a regular suit. You kind of got to make it fit differently. So I was kind of freaking out it wouldn't fit. He texts me, Christian, and he's like, yo, dude, just got the suit. And so I was like, what the heck? Like, how's it fit? And he just sent like 10,000 fire emojis. He's like, oh my God, it's so sick. Put it on, wore it to the game, got the fit of the week from the countdown or the check down. And all these people freaked out when they saw it, and he posted it, and they were like, good Lord, that's sick. So that suit, the fit of the week almost didn't happen, scared me, but drank some hustle juice, figured out how to get it to him, and the rest is history. But yeah, it's a pretty funny story. I actually have a video of me chasing it down too, which is pretty funny.
That is a sweat, literally and figuratively, man. That is crazy. Well,
I was losing it, man.
That's the hustle juice right there. That's the motto.
Yeah.
That's the credo right there, man. You just did it.
Yeah.
You just put your boots on the ground and chased it down all over Charlotte. That's fantastic.
Had to figure something out, man. That would have been a bit bad news for me if you hadn't gotten it. So,
wow.
Yeah.
That's great. So that's great. I'm, forever grateful for Christian A just to learn from him. The fact that he's getting us this custom suits, always nice too. He's a great guy. He didn't have to do that, but he's just one of the people that that are higher ups in sports. Who are some of the people that you fitted over the years, if you could publicly say?
For sure. Yeah. I'm good friends with Christian, good friends with George Kittle for the 49ers, Rob Tonyan for the Packers, Rob and George, funny story with them. This is before George became huge and big time, and same with Rob. Honestly, Rob blew up last year, had an amazing season, and shout out to their trainers, Jeremy and Josh down in Nashville. Those guys are animals, and they're producing, whatever they're doing it the right way, because guys are going there to train and they're coming out legends. So basically I just hit George up on Instagram. I sent him a really stupid, funny message. He had just helped me do really well in my fantasy league, his first year in the league. And I believed in him. And I was just like, hey man, you don't know me, but you seem like a funny guy. And I think I'm sometimes funny, but more importantly, I like your sense of humor, your swag, and everything you do. I want to make you a suit. I'll fly to Nashville. Let's do it. And you don't have to respond to me, but if you do, I think we'd have a lot of fun together. So he responded, and he was like, yeah, dude, come to Nashville. Me and my fiance would, love to meet you basically, and, come by. So I'm flying there, and Paul Swan, there's a common thread here. Paul knows everybody. It's the guy that was, I met Christian at Paul's wedding. He texts me. He's like, "You're in Nashville." He's like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "Well, I'm going to see, George Kittle." And Paul's like, "Oh, that's sick." He's like, "Well, one of my best friends, Rob Tanyan, him and George are boys." And so I just like, "Oh, cool." Like, it was literally maybe 30 seconds before I walked into George's door. I knock on the door. George opens it. I sit down. We start talking, and I have like back room. Rob Tanyan comes in. He's like, "Oh, what's up, man? My name's Rob." And I was like, "Do you know Paul Swan?" And he just like lost. He was like, "Paul Swan?" Like, he freaked out. And so it was just hilarious because it's such a small world. And George got fitted. Rob got fitted too. But the funniest part was they were all eating Panda Express, like massive Panda Express boxes when I walked in. And so I leave, I get them their stuff eventually. And fast forward 2 years from now, George texts me. He goes, "Hey, I've made a couple of things for him and Rob." He says, "Hey, man, I need, my measurements." George always shamelessly promoted Panda Express, and Panda actually hit him up recently and was like, "Hey, we want you to do a commercial for us." Cause he's blown up. He was in the Super Bowl. He's stud tight end. And I was like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "I don't know. I think they need to make me something that's like got a panda on it." And so I was like, "Well, I could make that." And I didn't even know what it was. He's like, "Really?" And I was like, "Yeah." And so he introduced me to the head of the commercial, and I ended up talking with her and giving her a budget and all this stuff. And I ended up making George a Panda Express suit that, he wore in the commercial and danced in it. It's a short suit. It's ridiculous. It's got chicken, honey, pandas on it. So it's just really funny how the first time I ever met him, he was eating Panda Express. And then 2 years later, I was making a suit for a Panda Express commercial. So pretty cool story, small world. And honestly, if Paul hadn't texted me about Rob and I hadn't referenced Paul's name, immediately Rob was like, "Oh, that's my boy." I was like, "That's my boy." So it's so funny. It's back to the bridges and connections thing. We've both had experiences with Paul. Now we've got experiences with each other. So it just immediately gained a trust factor. And yeah, here we are.
Who is Paul Swan?
Paul is first of all, a legend. I think anybody that meets him they laugh because he's the most energetic guy of all time. He's hilarious, but he works in NASCAR. He's a tire changer for Austin Dillon, the number 3 car. And he's, the heart and soul of the team, I'd say. And he's just a high energy guy. He played football at Bowling Green, and he's in NASCAR now. He's a pit crew guy, and he's just, he's a man of many talents, but that's his vocation. And I've always told him, and I think it's going to happen eventually. He's going to have his own show, and he'll be big time. And his wife's right there with him, Mariel. She's amazing. And same with Austin and Whitney, and their whole friend group's awesome. So
we got to get him on Not For Long Media.
Yeah, you got to get him on the podcast, man. He's a legend, and everyone that meets him, like, you just meet the guy, and there's few people like that, but as soon as you meet him, you're like, all right, yeah, this guy's a high energy guy. He's really funny, thick Wisconsin accent.
Is that how Tanya knows him?
Yeah, they
He's
know each other from up north. Tanya knows him because Paul is really good friends with Tanya's sister. They knew each other, I think, at Bowling Green. I could be wrong on that, but they were friends, some connection to college. And that's how, Paul was in, I think, her wedding is her husband's groomsman. And then Rob obviously was too. So, yeah, sorry, I'm rambling, but small story. Go. You need to get Paul on the podcast, man. He's a trip. He's a funny guy.
I can't wait. Yeah, Rob had a great year. My tight end coach in Carolina, Brian Angelico, Brian coached him in Green Bay. And he said, This kid's going to be a stud, move from receiver to tight end. He's going to have a great year. And he did. He lit it up. So, Coach Ange was on the money per usual. He knows his tight ends, and Rob had a great year. Kittle, obviously a monster. In my opinion, the best tight end in the NFL. Obviously, Travis Kelce can have an argument there, but I love the Kittle game. I can do maybe some more things that Kittle can do. I can't do what Kelce does. So maybe the blocking aspect, that's why I probably appreciate him a little bit more. That's more of my avenue, even though Kelce blocks well too. They're both great and good for Rob, and Kittle's a stud, and he's got a sweet little pad in Nashville, huh?
He's just a fun guy, man. Him and Claire, they're awesome. They have so many friends, and they're just like a center point of a lot of people. They just kind of like Paul and Mariel. They They host a lot of fun events. They always want people to come over. They always want to do stuff, and they just really care about people and are genuine people. So yeah, I couldn't, I couldn't stop singing George and Clara Kittle's praises. They're awesome. And same with Rob and his girlfriend. So they're great people.
Genuine people you've worked with around pro sports or celebrities, some other big names.
Yeah. Bubba Wallace, great friend of mine, Corey LaJoie, Tyler Reddick, all in NASCAR. Marcus Smith, who is, president of Speedway Motorsports, CEO. He helps NASCAR operate a lot of tracks around the country. Marcus has been amazing. He's been almost like a big brother mentor to me. Taught me a lot about life and business, and so I love that guy. Josh Gordon, really good guy. Pretty funny story with him too. Just kind of how we connected and how I made him a suit. Chris Hogan's the man. Trent Taylor. A lot of guys out there, and obviously the Capel brothers and the Houston guys. But I've been blessed to meet a lot of fun people and help them out with their wardrobes here and there. And hopefully I can 5 years from now save even more people and have more funny stories to share.
Funny story about Josh Gordon.
Yeah, pretty hilarious actually. It's one of my funnier ones. He basically was. I measured him in Cleveland on the Browns. I was good friends with his manager at the time, and his manager's the man. He's a guy named Mike. And I basically went to fit him in Cleveland, and not to get into too many personal details of that, but it took like probably 2 extra days of me being in Cleveland longer than I expected. And so I ended up, fitting him on Sunday, and super random, but I got it done and it was cool. And he was super, super cool dude. Mike's the man. Mike set everything up and they're awesome. Just, a couple schedule conflicts. So I go back home and he gets, released or traded to New England. And so I text Mike and they decided that, they were going to go opposite ways as well. Cause I think Mike was engaged at the time. And basically it just, didn't work out for each of them to continue to do everything with him being in New England and just everything that was going on. And, so I was basically just like, all right, I made this suit, which it was a ridiculous suit. It was a lightning bolt pinstripe. They call Josh Gordon Flash. So I took a flash, a lightning bolt, and put it on a suit and created a pinstripe, kind of like the McGregor FU suit, but just with a lightning bolt. And it was so sick. But Josh hates suits. He didn't wear suits. And so I had to make it into like a jogger suit. And I have this whole video on my Instagram about it. So I thought I just made this ridiculous, really, really expensive suit because I had to screen print the fabric, cut the fabric, figure out the design of the fabric, all this stuff. It wasn't just like a Navy suit. No one else is going to wear this except this guy. And so I was like, oh, God, because Josh changed his number. And I was like, God, I don't have his number. I don't have any way to contact with him. And he's got, I think, a couple million followers. There's no way he's going to read my message and realize it's me. And so I just had this lightning bolt suit for like 3 months. And I was just like, whatever, man, not going to be able to have it, count my losses and move on. And that was in September. And then it's December, 8th. He's on the Patriots. He's had a couple good games. And I was like, happy for him. I know he had a couple struggles, but I was pumped he was doing well and had a good opportunity to play. And I got this random text from a Houston number. And it was like, yo, you still got that suit? ? And I was like, it's 4 months later. I was like, suit, what are you talking about? Like, hey, who is this? What suit? It's JG. I was like, okay, JG. I was like, what suit are you talking about? He goes, the lightning bolt, the flash stripe. And I was like, oh, JG, Josh. Okay. Oh, what up, dude? Yeah, I still got it. He texts me back. He's like, I want to see it. I text him a picture of it. And he's all right. Well, if you fly to New England, drop it off, I'll pay you for it. And I was just like, okay, that's that simple. And so I was just like, all right, whatever. And I texted my buddy, who's a videographer. His name's Josh, and he had just went out on his own and was trying to film, cool stuff and new stuff. And I was like, hey, man, I don't have much money right now, but I'll pay for your flight, your hotel, all your food. I need a video, document this because, this has been a pretty funny story so far. I measured this guy, I made a suit, got a random text. now I'm flying up to New England where I didn't really know anybody. And, I've got to drop off a suit in Foxborough 40 minutes. Like, this is probably gonna be a funny story. So all right, I'm game. So we go up and, we had agreement to go like Friday at 2:00 at, all the Foxborough houses. And if you don't know this, the Patriots players, they have townhomes or, smaller homes they live at in Foxborough during the season, most of them. And then I think during the off season, they live, in Boston and wherever else they want. But they don't most of them don't live in Boston, like during the regular season. It's pretty, hey, this is what we do during the season. You guys live here. And so he texted the address. We get there. It's middle of December. It's like 15 degrees outside. I'm this, like he's 6'5". So I'm holding this suit with this bag, it's just as tall as me. And I have to hold it with two hands because I can't even, reach high enough to hold it or to drag on the ground. He's got his video and, we get to the house, we ring the doorbell, knock on the door. No one's there. Like 20 minutes, no one's there. 25 minutes more, no one's there. So we were there for like an hour. And I was just like, oh my God. And so I looked at Josh and he's like filming my reaction and everything. He's like, how you feel? And I was like, well, I don't know. I guess we leave. I don't know. We're in Foxborough. It's 15 degrees outside. I'm freezing right now. I was like, I guess we just go home. So we had Ubered there, which was like $150 Uber. It was like 50. So I had no idea what I was doing. Right. So I didn't rent a car. I was like, we'll just Uber there. And so I called another Uber. They get there. We get picked up. I was pretty down. I was like, God, man, we just flew up here for no reason. And I get a text. It was like, yo, are you at the house? And I was like, we just were. It was Josh. He's like, sorry, man, got call extra at the stadium. I'll be there in 45 minutes. And I was like, 45? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, all right, man, well, please come because we're freezing. And I just called another Uber and I'm going to have to pay this guy too. So we turned around, went back. Josh was like, all right, cool. We'll just go sit inside. You go sit inside the house. And so he's like, front door is open. So we just walked in the front door and just chilled. And, like for 45 minutes. And we were just like, all right. And 45 minutes later, he comes in, swagged out. He's got like a fur coat on, these stunner shades. He's like, what's up, man? It's like, sorry, I kept you guys waiting. He was super gracious, and, he tried on the suit, loved it, took a pic, dapped me up, paid me for it. And then, we went on our way, but it was pretty funny. Everything that happened and, all the ups and downs and everything. And that was probably the suit that I think put me on the map for a lot of other athletes, just kind of what it looked like, what I did, and the video and the content helped kind of promote it. So it was a pretty funny story. And then he wore it the next game. And that was the same game that he actually got suspended again. So I didn't even get to see the suit, against Pittsburgh, which is still crazy to me. But, he has it still. And I'm hoping that he rocks it another time and I can see it. But I got that one picture with him in it. And that's all I needed. And yeah, the rest is history. But pretty wild, pretty ups and downs, and pretty funny how we got connected. And then he just randomly hit me back up and he got the suit again.
How do you bring people to your business? Because they're not just people, we're talking high profile people that are really hard to get a hold of. And you may know an agent or management or something maybe, or you can just slide into DMs and figure out, do you create the content and hope it makes it big enough? And then Josh posts it because he's not tagging you, I'm assuming, in that picture, right? Most guys aren't.
Yeah, he never posted anything.
You're sliding into DMs, which three-quarters of the people on this podcast, that was me just saying, hey, we'd like to come on. And I'm blessed to have a blue check for some crazy reason. They gave me one. I'm a verified, I guess. And people say, yeah, sure, I'll come on the podcast. And it's been a blessing. What's it like for you grinding to get people to be into your product, which is you, really? You're the product, even though, sort of the suit is, but you're pushing things, you're being creative. And again, it's not like it has your business card or your name on Tampa Bay Vipers isn't across, but it doesn't say, Mitch across it. So how do you bring people to your business?
I think the biggest thing is trying new things, making sure you do what you say and making sure it fits. So I think Christian, and he liked what I did for a couple things, and he shouted me out on the Panthers video. There was, I wouldn't say, what he said, but and he basically just said that, come up with creative ideas. I'd pitch them to him. I didn't try to be forceful. I didn't try to be salesy. And then we'd get really creative on super personal things to him. Peaky Blinders, quotes. I had a Bruce Lee suit for him. So I think being creative, being personal, not being annoying. I love Christian. Like if Christian never bought another suit for me the rest of his life, that's still my guy. Like, he's a great friend, and we've had a lot of cool conversations about life too. I think too many people, the hustle juice is great, and I think I'm really good at hustling, but I think sometimes people, they're a little too annoying when they hustle, and they think that hitting someone up like 20, 30 times, that's hustling. It's like, that's being annoying. Hustling is chasing after a UPS truck and not just trying to pat myself on the back. But I never hit people up really and say, buy a suit for me. I'd say like, I'd like the opportunity to make you something dope. I know you like this. Let's throw this together. So for example, Taylor Heineke's the guy I'm about to start working with, and he's a great dude. And we've talked back and forth, and, he had that really good playoff game against the Bucks recently, and just an awesome guy. And he's a hustler. He's a perfect example of hustle. He's been a career, journeyman, and he finally got a really good contract with Washington. But
XFL,
he just,
AAF, shout out.
Yeah.
Backup quarterback in the XFL, folks.
Yeah. He's crazy, and he's just a bro. And I actually met him organically just being out in Charlotte. So we've known each other, but, he got a painting recently, and, just throwing around ideas, and the painting was very meaningful for him. It was an artist he'd followed for a while and kind of associated himself with in the hustle. And I just sent him the picture of the painting. I was like, dude, it'd be really cool, to incorporate this in something you would want to get to wear. You could wear that, and it popped in his head. And he's like, yeah, that's a dope idea. So I think it's that kind of stuff, being personal, being creative, doing what you say, and not being annoying. And eventually, if you post enough and guys see what you're doing, they're going to say, okay, I like that. They just, people don't want to be bothered. They don't want to be sold. They want to have an experience, and trying to do the best you can at providing that.
Creativity, personal. You have a book in front of you there. Talk about that book.
The book right in front of me.
That writing book. Is that the book you came into the house with
Oh,
and took notes?
Yeah. I take this thing absolutely with me everywhere I go, man.
I was extremely impressed. Essentially, you came in and you just took notes on everything. You asked me 15, 20 questions, just random stuff. I was like, how does this have to do with my suit? You're like, dude, everything counts. It's always great. And I just thought that was really cool and very professional of you to do.
Thanks, man. Yeah, I think, I keep, it's an awesome book. And I say it's my journal for other people. That's how I describe it. I have a lot of cool conversations that book's been a part of, been there for. We talked about life. We talked about, what your family did, what you do, what you like to do, what your fiance likes to do. She's a stoolie. We talked about that and different things like that, and where people want to go. And I think that's my favorite thing about the business is, it's so creative, and I get to surprise people, which is exciting. And I got a really cool surprise in your suit. You have no idea what I'm going to do, but I'm freaking amped about it. Your suit's going to be very detail specific to things you've told me about. And same thing with all the other guys that got it too.
Wow. So we'll have to do a little, maybe we could do like a Zoom for you and I'll open the box up, we'll create some content, because that's what this whole world's about now anyways, right?
Yeah, dude, it's going to be sick. You're going to be surprised. And,
right.
I think that was my favorite thing, that really Christian, George and guys like that, they let me, have fun. It's fun for them. It's fun for me. They know that I know things they like and don't like, and it's really fun to stretch the envelope. So yeah, this thing's done wonders for me. A lot of cool conversations, and helped me get to really know what makes people tick, that's the end goal in life.
So smart, man. Connections, write things down. That's fantastic. So we'll finish with two quick stories here. You could continue to go, but there's two stories that I wrote down. I was sitting in our living room at the house I was renting outside of Charlotte there, and you're sort of telling all these great stories. And I'm like, all right, well, I know I'm getting my podcast up and running. So let me write Mitch's name down. Let me just start putting these little stories. So I wrote drunk Super Bowl story and then Tim Ferriss story. Can you start with the drunk Super Bowl story that you told us? I thought it was a good one.
Drunk Super Bowl story is really funny. If anyone knows Gary Vee, social media god, but like legit too. I think there's a lot of social media people that are not, and they're just good at marketing and good at making videos. Gary's legit. He's a stud. He's very smart. He's got great empathetic skills in terms of understanding what people are doing, where they're coming from, and where they want to go. And I think that's what gotten Gary to where he is now. His brother AJ doesn't get enough credit. AJ's become a good friend of mine, and absolute legend too. Early investor in Uber, Facebook, startups like that. And so they're just both hustlers, man. They're hustlers that care about people and want more for themselves and other people that they work with. So I think that's really what drives them. And I am a advisor for a compression sock company called Lasso. It's basically an ankle brace built within a sock, not as restrictive, just as protective, and just, a little bit more convenient. And so we were actually, me, Partha, my business partner there, one of my business partners, he's actually the CEO, came up with the idea, Georgia Tech grad. We were meeting with him and one of my best clients, who's CEO of an insurance company, does very well, has a textiles background from NC State. So he understands fabrics and apparel companies very well. And so we're all sitting at this bar, Big Sky in Buckhead, which is one of my clients in Atlanta's bars. And we're just sitting there, and, it's Super Bowl. I'm wearing my first time going to Super Bowl. I'd had a couple of drinks. I'm not exactly a heavyweight. I think people that have drank with me before will laugh at me at that. And, I don't have a problem, but, I like to have fun and, get after it. And I'm like 4 drinks in. It's when we're watching the Warriors play. It's February. And it's when they still had KD and they're healthy and all this stuff. And this is 2019. 2019. And, they're still killing it. They're still the best team in the NBA. They're dominating everybody. And I look at AJ, I look at Robbie, who's one of my buddies who works with Andy, and Andy, my buddy's a client, and Partha. And I look at them and I just go, I bet you guys something. Because at the end of the year, Kevin Durant was a free agent. Clay was a free agent. DeMarcus Cousins was a free agent. All these guys are going to be free agents. I said, the Warriors, they'll probably win again this year, at least make the finals. Next year, they're not going to even make the playoffs. And all of them, like, I'm 4 drinks in, look at me, and they're like 1 drink in. They're like, Mitch, you're an idiot. And I was like, well, if I'm an idiot, why don't you put your money to where your mouth is? And they were like, what do you mean? And I was like, well, I'm going to bet you guys a suit, a full custom suit. I will pay I'll make it for all of you for free if I'm wrong. But if I'm right, you guys have to buy like a really nice suit for me, all of you. And they were just looking at me and they're like, we don't want, you've been drinking. We don't want to take your money that easily, all this stuff. I was like, no, I was very adamant. I was like, you guys are scared. You're scared.
And let me just speak for the listeners here. 4 drinks really means probably like 6 or 7, right? Just so we're clear.
Oh yeah, they were doubles. They're vodka,
okay.
vodka
So it was 8
doubles.
drinks.
Yeah, it was pretty much 8 drinks. I had not eaten all day.
Good.
We just flown in flight. Yeah, 4
Absolutely.
drinks. I don't drink beer. That's a fun fact about me. I haven't drank it in 5 years.
That's all I drink.
I'm a whiskey, vodka, liquor guy, and my drink of choice is a double vodka water and a lime. That's what I drink when I'm at a bar. I love whiskey, bourbon, cocktails. I love making cocktails. That's another story. But when I'm at a sports bar and I'm trying to have a good time, that's what I drink. That or tequila. And I think I made the bet right after a tequila shot. And so they just look at me like I'm an idiot. And they're making fun of me. And they're like, no, we're not doing that. I was all right. You guys are scared. And so finally, AJ goes, all right, sure, I'll do it. And Robbie goes, okay, I'll do it. Andy goes, I'll do it. And I got it. And I was so adamant about it. I was like, all right, I'm going to film this. We're going to film this video because I'm holding you guys accountable. And they're like, well, it's fine. Film it because we're going to get a free suit. And Robbie, my buddy, was like, this is the easiest swag I've ever gotten in my life. And so fast forward a year, still had the bet, still texting him about it nonstop. Steph gets hurt. KD's, dead sign. Or KD, had hurt his Achilles in the playoffs. Clay had torn his ACL. DeMarcus wasn't on the Warriors. Draymond got hurt. Halfway through the season, the Warriors, they were the worst team in the NBA. And so I'm texting them and they're just, hands over their face like, oh my God, it was the dumbest bet of all time and it's right. And so, yeah, at the end of the year, I texted all of them and they're all honoring it. And all of them bought suits. And I still got to go fit AJ because we didn't get to link up because of COVID. But pretty funny story. AJ, all those guys got to buy custom suits for me and the Warriors didn't make the playoffs. So
Unreal. That's a fantastic story. Great bet looking back.
Pretty lucky. I've lost a lot of suits during bets too. I lost actually a beer pong game. It was me and CJ Beathard versus George Kittle and Tanyan. And I bet the same kind of bet against George and Robbie. We thought we won. There was a house rules rule that George kind of threw out there. He'll deny it, but I have to make I made Rob a suit for free, and I'm making George's wedding suit for free. So at the end of the day, I like having fun. I like betting. It's probably a problem here and there, but it's fun. It gets people excited, and I love competing and trying something out. So
gambling on suits for beer pong games. How's CJ Beathard? Who was the best beer pong player? That's the real question.
CJ was nasty. I let him down. George and Rob were good. I thought, North Carolina rules, if you miss it, you get balls back. You either throw it behind your back, and they swatted it. But, I think that's a Tennessee rule, I guess. I'm not too familiar with it. But
you cross state lines, man. That's a big deal.
Yeah, true. I should have known I wasn't getting home field advantage. But CJ was good. I probably disappointed him. And Rob and George, obviously really aggressive, really funny guys. And, they like, it doesn't matter what it is, COD, Rocket League, football, basketball, they're all very competitive and they want to win literally everything. So it was a funny story.
Last story before we go. Well, let's say this. Any more good stories about losing suits on bets? I mean, it seems like this is a little bit of a trend now. So when I'm around next time, you and I will bet on something. We'll compete at something, and maybe, I'll have an excuse to buy you a new suit, or maybe I'll get a new suit.
Yeah, no, I think it's fun. I basically, with a business, obviously I like, athletes and people that look good and are in shape to wear my stuff. And so I'm usually more keen to bet with people that maybe they're getting married and, like I'm going to get professional photos of that suit. They're, going to get professional photos of when they're going to pregame. So I'd say I'm way more inclined to do it with guys that play and are going to get married.
C-Mac,
yeah.
Perfect guy. There you go. Kittle, perfect guy. Colin Thompson, may not make the team next year.
No,
I'm kidding.
Dude, you're perfect. You're also getting married. But it's any guys that play sports, my age. It doesn't matter if it's a beer pong, shooting, sprinting, lifting. I don't care what it is. Like I'll compete in anything, and it's just kind of a fun way for me to like get really, really like high stakes because I don't play anymore, and so the only high stakes is I can create for myself or something like that.
There's some high stake beer pong games. Shout out to those people listening to 4th of July a couple of years ago. They're real high stakes. So lastly, the Tim Ferriss story. Can you touch on that?
Tim Ferriss story is pretty funny. Just because if anyone knows Tim Ferriss, like podcast legend, just entrepreneurial legend, very creative guy, very different guy. I'd say if you don't know him, I'd say he's the biggest competitor in terms of interviewing cool people to Joe Rogan. That's my perspective. I think he's the biggest competitor. Joe Rogan's a little more, but Tim's right there. And
has Tim interviewed you or Rogan interviewed you?
No, they don't.
Maybe I have the nod over them.
Yeah, you got the leg up on them. Give a couple years, man. You're gonna be right there. You're gonna get that 100 million Spotify contract that Rogan
sounds
got.
Pretty good. Yeah, good for Joe. He's the best show in town. But now your buddy is Tim Ferriss. I'm going to dial in on him. We got to check him out.
So this is the funny part about Tim Ferriss. So I've listened to his podcast for a while, and I went to App State. I was involved with the business school there, and I get an email, and I'm graduated at this point. And I have buddies. Whether you're listening to Barstool podcast or business, a lot of my friends are in crypto right now and investments in the GameStop stuff. So they just talk about whatever they're interested in. Usually your friends are interested in stuff you are. And so a lot of us listen to Tim Ferriss and we like his podcast. And so App State sends us an email. It's like keynote speaker, Tim Ferriss at the App State Business Conference. And so we're just like, how did App State get Tim Ferriss? And so we're like, this is amazing. And so like 6 of us text each other like, hey, we're going to go see Tim Ferriss, speak at, App State. Probably the best speaker App's ever gotten. This is sick. Get to go back the old bars and make a day or two out of it. It's gonna be awesome. Be nice to be back at school and see a stud and hopefully meet him in person. And usually, if someone speaks at App, you're gonna be able to meet them. So I think that's why we were so shocked. We are just like, all right, cool. And so we get there, we're all pumped, this guy's a pretty interesting dude. He's the kind of guy just like Joe. He'll get in like a 10,000 degree sauna for 30 minutes and take his blood pressure and drink random stuff that'll improve his brain function. Like, he's just that kind of guy. And so, he's a really interesting dude. And so we're there, and the crowd's there, and a lot of people were there. It's the best show out I've ever seen at an App State Speaker Conference. And first up, this person gets up on stage like, yeah, so glad you guys are here to see Tim Ferriss. Thinks he's got a lot of awesome stuff to share, and hope you guys enjoy this segment. So we're all like, cool, let's go. So this guy walks out on stage, and we're like, okay, it's probably Tim's, business manager or something. It's this redheaded dude, super thick Connecticut accent, and he just goes, like, he's very like Boston kind of guy, and he goes, how's it going? And it's like, 1,000 people just looking at this dude. He goes, how's it going? And we're just kind of like, what's up, man? He goes, so I assume a lot of you guys thought you were going to come see Tim Ferriss, the podcaster. I'm Tim Ferriss, not the podcaster. And so everyone, you just heard this deep like sigh in the audience. You were like, what? And so it turned out there was this guy named Tim Ferriss that was speaking at App, who runs a company that's close to App, but it wasn't the Tim Ferriss that we thought it was going to be. And so we just all kind of just like started laughing. We're like, what the heck? What's going on here? And then he was like, so I assume a lot of you guys came to see that guy, but he's like, I think I got a couple good stories for you guys. So it turns out we were like, all right, we're already here. Let's listen to this dude. Turns out this guy is almost even more of a legend than the first Tim Ferriss. Marine diver, never went to college, started a marine diving company, right? It's called Defiant. And Defiant basically started out couple employees. They ended up being like an emergency spill catastrophe cleanup crew. So they cleaned up Hurricane Sandy, Hurricane Katrina, the BP oil spill, all this stuff. So this guy, this thick, just casual dude, just casually describing all these stories, starts talking about like face to face with like sharks in the ocean. He's a diver. The BP oil spill got tail whipped by an animal. He had no idea what it was, but he's like, it wasn't a shark. It was the biggest animal I've ever seen. I got tail whipped because they'd go really deep below the ocean. He's like, one time he got his, marine diving, his, what's it called? When you whatever you use to breathe when you're under the ocean.
I took scuba in college, and I should know this.
Whatever his straw was, he had basically like 10 times where he had certain muck from the cleanups would get into his straw, and he almost died. He's passed out under the ocean like 10 times, something like that. So the guy's a legend, and he's built like this, like $100 million deals, like Defiant Marine, lives in North Carolina. And all of a sudden, after he, started doing really well at Defiant Marine, started a company, which I drink it all the time, called Defiant Whiskey. Started his own distillery. Got like second his first year in the California Spirit Festival. So long story short, we thought we were going to see Tim Ferriss, the podcaster. We ended up hearing this guy that had probably the most interesting story I've ever heard, being a marine diver. He would have been a perfect candidate for dirty jobs with Mike Rowe, but just, who does jobs like that? Who thinks to start a company? We're going to clean up an oil spill in the ocean. It's $100 million project, and then starts his own distillery, gets awarded from all these spirit festivals. The guy's just a legend. So relaxed, so low key, like describes sharks or animals or near death experiences, just like a normal conversation at a bar. And yeah, ended up meeting him, developing a relationship with him, and he's a legend. But yeah, his name's Tim Ferriss. So that's my Tim Ferriss story.
The legend of Tim Ferriss. That's fantastic. And he grows on.
Yeah.
Quick story, and then I'll let you go from me. It's not as funny. It's not that entertaining, but Mark Cuban came to speak at Florida. And this was freshman year, 2012. Me and my buddy Fitz went over. There's nobody there. The place was half full.
Yeah.
And it was a solid sized, amphitheater, right? 2 levels and, I don't know, 2 rows in the middle, that go up to the, to the main area, and then 2 on the side. Like, it was decent size. It was half full for Mark, but Mark was great. He put his email up on the projecting screen, and he just said, "Hey, listen, if you have a good idea, shoot me an email. I'll read it tonight on the plane back. And if the first 2 lines are good, I'll keep reading." I was like, wow. And at the end, he's like, "I bet half of you didn't even write that down, or half of you will never email me." So he's probably right. Maybe more. 99% probably didn't even email him. But that's the Mark Cuban story. Also, Sydney, my fiance, played women's lacrosse. Shout out Florida women's lacrosse. He went to Cantina, RIP, bar that died in Gainesville. Not died in Gainesville, but went out of business in Gainesville. Place that we love and frequently visited, I should say. And he went there and like closed the bar and bought everyone drinks and showed up in a limo and partied with Florida women's lacrosse all night. Sydney wasn't there, but yeah, Mark Cuban seems like a cool guy and got after it and had a great time. He's got some great stories about being in Indiana and how he started a new business and, started as like a kind of a grinder, blue collar guy, ended up being obviously extremely wealthy man, owner of the Mavericks. So Shark Tank known. So
He's a badass dude. Not to up your story, but he was my first. He's my first boss.
Really? See, up my story. Go ahead. This is what the podcast is all about. Let's hear this story. This is great.
So this is pretty funny. So college, same thing. Shark Tank, addicted, entrepreneur. I was my major and all that stuff. And back to the hustle juice. So I was drinking some hustle juice, studying for an exam. Pretty wired, pretty into it, and just watched an episode of Shark Tank. And it's funny you mentioned his email. So I was one of the kids that emailed him. And I was like, this is why not? I said, I got nothing to lose. And I think that's the best saying in life is why not? You might as well try. So I found his Mavericks email online. I sent him an email. I was just like, hey, and I was like, how do I make this, kind of something that's different? I can't just say I have a business idea or that whatever, I was like, I got to think of something. And so sophomore Mitch, 20-year-old Mitch, thinks it'd be a great idea to have the subject line as "You are a stud." So that was the subject of my email. It just said, "You are a stud." And I sent this ridiculous email, just telling him how big of a stud he was. And at the time he had just gotten like away from the SEC for insider trading, but he had spent more on the lawyers than the actual fine itself just to stick it to the SEC. He could have, gotten the slap on the wrist, paid the fine. He spent 10 times as much on the lawyers just to stick it to him. And I love that. And so basically sent him that email. And like 3 days later, I didn't get anything. I was just studying in the library again. I looked at my phone and it said RE, Mark Cuban. He'd responded. And it was like, thanks for the email, LOL. I have a new app. Let me know what, here's the link. Let me know what App State student think of it. So here I am just reading it. I'm like looking around, like thinking, one of my friends is playing a joke on me because I had told like 3 friends I'd sent him an email. And, I look at it and I was like, what am I doing? And I respond to him. I was like, is this really Mark? Like, that was my first question. It was hilarious. And his immediate response from him, yep. And then I was just like, I got some questions that I got to ask you. Life, what books did I read? Yada, yada, yada. So he started responding. He's like, read, I think it was Good to Great, 0 to 1, like all these books, just like business books. And then I was like, what am I doing again? I was like, give me an internship. Let me work for you. He's like, let's see how you do with CyberDust, which was the app. It's called Dust now. It's like Snapchat meets WhatsApp. And I was all right. And so I basically downloaded the app, created this position for myself called, head of engagement for App State CyberDust. There was no position. He did not hire me as that. And I just started telling people about the app, getting people on the app. And if you look at apps, there's, you can see where people are downloading it. App State. So I got like 500 of my friends that I knew at App in high school and middle school and elementary school and all that. And I said, hey, download this app and write my name in a review on iTunes, the Apple Store. Write my name in, the review. I want him to know I'm hustling and that I'm doing this because I want to work for him and that he sees everything. And so literally I got 500 reviews on the Apple Store of like, Mitch Purgason told me about this app, love it, yada, 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 whatever. So then he emails me and he's like, I see what you're doing. Make sure you tell people it's not just about the downloads or the reviews, but what the app's for. And I was like, yeah, but I got your attention. That's 500 downloads, like that. He was like, yeah, keep going. He said, you can consider yourself an intern. You know, let's see what you continue to do. Long story short, I was doing another hustle at the time and kept hustling in that, created the same position at like 5 other schools. 3 months later, I get an email from his right-hand guy and says, hey, Mitch, you know, we want to fly you up to New York. We're putting on the Steve Nash Celebrity Soccer Tournament. We want you to be the face of Cyberdust while you're there, interact with athletes, get them on the app, go to the tournament, and then, you know, just, yeah, you're our guy. So I went from basically at the time driving like a truck, you know, delivering books to schools to going to New York City. I'd never been before. And this is a long story, but probably the funniest part of the story. Great time, like great experience, was there for a while. After the celebrity soccer tournament, Steve had all these people at Cipriani's Wall Street. And, you know, as the owner of Cipriani's, if you've ever been, you know, Wall Street, Cipriani's, really nice Italian restaurant, great view, huge columns. You get to see the city, the whole street, all Wall Street. It's a huge, you know, great spot. So Dirk Nowitzki's there. Steve Nash is there. Lloyd Pierce, you know, the guy from the Atlanta Hawks, is there. All these athletes are there. All these models are there. And I'm like this 20-year-old, you know, 21-year-old, you know, guy, just like, where the heck am I? And I'd never been to New York before. I'd also never had Manhattan before. The guy that worked for Mark at the time was this guy named Omar. And he was kind of my like boss while I was in New York. And he loved messing with me. I was basically his pledge. You know, the easiest way to describe it. So he kept feeding me Manhattans all night. And he told me, it's probably the funniest part of the story. He goes, Mitch, you know, you've worked hard, you know, on, you know, being here, and we've liked what you've done and interacted with everybody, but I do have something for you. I was like, oh God. He said, I want you to go up to the DJ, you know, it's people drinking, having fun, and then just random me, and tell him to put on Fancy by Iggy Azalea. And I want you to dance by yourself in front of everyone here to Fancy by Iggy Azalea. And I was just like, dude, there's no way. Like, if I do that, like, you're going to tell Mark I'm an idiot, and I'll get fired, and I'll never get invited to something like this again. He's like, or if you don't do it, I'll tell him the same thing. And so I just sat there and I was like, oh my God. And so I looked at his buddy. He's a good friend of mine in the fashion industry now. His name's Chris. And I looked at Chris and I was like, is Omar legit? And Chris, like, it's only one way to find out, man. Chris was just laughing because he knows, like, my head is like, you know, well, what am I about to do? So I was like, all right, screw it. So I go up to the DJ. I was like, hey, man, Omar says to put on Fancy by Iggy Azalea. Puts it on. I danced by myself for 3 minutes straight, 4 minutes straight, however long the song was. At the end of the song, there's like this dead silence, deadpan silence. And like Dirk, his wife, like everyone's just looking at me, Steve, and they're just like, and then all of a sudden they go, yeah. And they just like screamed and were like hyping me up. And they're like, that was awesome. And I don't know what I was doing. I was just dancing like an idiot. And the rest of the night, like, I had the owner of Cipriani's like give me a cigar, lit it for me. He was like, that was hilarious. Like, that was so dope. And like all these dudes the rest of the night were like, dude, you're the man. And it was just like this hilarious experience of just like, I was so scared. It was so dumb. It was pretty funny. Omar was making me do that. And it turned the night around for me. I made really good business contacts the rest of the night. And yeah, it's probably my funniest story of just like something random that I have no idea what or why it happened, but it did. And yeah, pretty funny.
Wow.
Yeah.
Mitch Purgason, everybody. Mitch, I can't thank you enough for coming on, man.
Yeah, man. No, thanks for having me. And sorry if I rambled a little too much. I think it's the hustle juice at this point, but
listen, man,
yeah,
hustle juice is your middle name. And I'll be honest with you, that's what a podcast was for. Let it ramble, let it rip. We truly appreciate you having on. I look forward to circling back. I look forward to doing a little content, and maybe when my package arrives with the suit, we'll put it out on our YouTube, which you can click below and subscribe. We'd appreciate it. And again, Mitch, thanks a bunch for your time, man. I really appreciate it. Looking forward to seeing you when I get back to Charlotte.
Yeah, man. I'm pumped. Thanks for having me. Thanks for having me on. And yeah, pumped for your threads. And when you get back, we'll come try it on and show everybody what we did.
Sounds good, man. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks, Colin.
Sing from the storm, the galaxy is where we'll stay.
And that will do it for episode 4 of Not For Long Media with Mitch Purgason. I hope you guys enjoyed his stories, his tales about traveling the world and fitting people with suits and playing basketball and working for Mark Cuban and just a lot of really fun stuff over the years. You got to kind of feel his vibe, his grind, the juice that he drinks, his coffee, and he just got an upbeat, fun, positive personality. Definitely someone that's fun to be around, and really being around in general just has a great vibe that you want to do business with, you want to hang out with. And I thought he would be an interesting, different guest to bring on the podcast again, to have some creative thinking and not just have a standard guest on. He's someone that goes in depth about what he does, how his mind works. And I really enjoyed him coming on. We're brought to you by Wealth Advisory Service. If you don't know him, you should. We've talked about it before. Personalized approach to managing your wealth. Paul, Dave, this is family business. This is family friends. These are people that my family has trusted, like I said, for a decade, and we love to work with. wealthadvisoryservices.com. The original Fudge Kitchen, shipping goodies across the country. St. Patty's Day is coming up, birthdays, special holidays, anniversaries. It's the perfect gift. FudgeKitchens.com. You will not regret ordering some fudge. I can guarantee that. I really hope you guys enjoyed the Mitch Purgason interview, because he just has a wealth of knowledge and a wealth of stories that are so intriguing to me, and I'm sure they were for you as well. Like I said, follow Mitch at Stitched by Mitch. He's fitting top coaches all over college basketball. He's fitting some of the best tight ends and some of the worst, including me. That's talking about me, tight ends in the NFL. So I feel honored, that he's going to fit Kittle and Tunyon, and now he fits me. So maybe one day I'll be a little bit like them, Pro Bowls and big contracts. So yeah, he's a great guy. I really love the Cuban story. I've talked about that a couple of times now, how he just shoots Mark a DM, then he ends up in New York City working for a company, and that's chaos, and he's getting put to the test. And then, he's running around App State selling an app, to people around campus, and the numbers spiked. And just a cool story of a basketball player at Appalachian State who worked in operations there, and he just covers a lot of bases. And Mitch, we really appreciate you coming on, and looking forward to having you back. And maybe when I have one of these big guys on that you're going to give us the contact to, we'll have you pop on and surprise them, so you guys can laugh and tell some stories about, playing beer pong and, just raffling off your suit in competition for a beer pong game. So that's going to do it for another episode of Not For Long Media. We appreciate your support. March goodness, guys. Let's get on it. Let's raise some money to the charity of your choice. If you're the winner, why not? Why not? And you're going to win some goodies. You're going to win some stuff, some swag, a swag bag, as my mom likes to call it, from our sponsors and from us at Not For Long Media. And then from our friends over at Opinions on Pickens. Check them out. Shoot us a follow. Tag your friends. Let's bring, some people together here, and something we all love and can all root for, which is March Madness, and then raise some money for the charity of your choice. So we appreciate your support here at Not For Long Media. Check our friends out, like I said, at Opinions on Pickens. And that will do it for episode 4 of Not For Long Media. Have a great day, guys.
We can't look back. Let's all just drift away.